So hello, the first people are joining, I see. I think we can wait a few more seconds for more to join, but in the phase that this live stream will also be online later on my channel, I won't wait too long to start, so that when you are watching this later, you don't have to skip too much. So let me just start with a short introduction of today's topic. I want to talk about the role that gratitude plays in our mindfulness practice, and especially for our ability to deal with challenging situations when we are really facing something that we struggle with, fear, loss of someone we love, maybe in this time where the coronavirus especially is giving us a hard time to live in distance from the life that we are usually used to live. And we can look to science, but also especially Buddhism, in order to find some solutions for how to deal with these challenges. And it's especially helpful to look for the gratitude aspect of Buddhist practice in order to get some help, in order to improve our situation and really deal with the challenges that we are facing. And so if you see me looking down during this live stream, I have a few notes written down so that I don't miss anything I want to say about this topic. And before we really start, I want to give you a feeling for what we are actually talking about, because it's easy to get lost in concept. And when we are talking about gratitude, we all know the meaning of this word. But what we are actually looking for is the qualia of the meaning of the word. So when we mean gratitude, we first want to get clear what the qualia actually is. And the qualia just means, if you're not familiar with the term, it's your subjective phenomenological experience. So it's your very direct experience. You can also think of the meaning of the color blue, for example. We all know the concept, and you could explain it with further concept. For example, you could say blue has a certain wavelength of maybe, I don't know, a few hundred hertz, and that would describe the color blue. But no, the qualia of the color blue would be what you see actually, what maybe it evokes, maybe even a little bit of emotion in you. And so that's the qualia of a very simple term like blue. But in order to really feel the qualia of the term gratitude, we can do a simple exercise. And that is, I want you to now look back on something that someone did to you in the last few days that you were thankful of. Something someone did to you that was good. And now relive that experience a little bit in your mind's eye. Feel what that is like to receive that gift, that pleasurable experience, and become aware of its quality. And then acknowledge it. And in that acknowledging arises the qualia we are looking for, the qualia of gratitude. So I give you a few seconds here to remember something good that happened to you in the last few days and come up with this feeling so you know what we are talking about. So I hope you have had the chance to remember something good that happened to you and got a feeling of what gratitude actually is. So you now know what we are talking about, not only conceptually, but experientially. And that's what is important to have in mind going forward. And we could look at gratitude as something that we use in order to face our challenges. Because this talk is especially about how we can use gratitude in challenging times. And gratitude is really one of those tools we have to face challenges. It might sound very counterintuitive, because why and how could you actually be grateful for the difficult times that you experience, for the bad things that happen? And I want to give you just one lens of how to look at this. And this lens would be the lens of the two aspects of life that are not exclusive to each other. Because what happens usually, maybe when you have now also in this exercise of finding something good that happened to you in the last few days, maybe you have struggled. Why is that? Because everything is already so good. It's all so homogeneous that nothing really stands out. And we usually only become aware of something really good when it's missing. We recognize it after the fact, when it has disappeared. And that's something tragic. And so the bad experiences, the lowest lows, our highest struggles, they are really the anchor, the context, and they open up the spectrum to our experience. And they make us appreciate sometimes. Sometimes we have to be pushed really hard in order to appreciate the good things we have in life. And those bad experiences, as difficult as they may seem when we experience them in the moment, they have this quality. They have this ability to give us a deep appreciation for our life, for our regular, ordinary consciousness, for our regular experience, because they give us this contrast. And only with this lens only, there might be many other aspects, but this lens alone is already enough in order to appreciate and feel gratitude towards the difficult times. And maybe you are right now affected by the coronavirus, and in your area it's very strict with the rules, and you are really missing something from your life. You can now appreciate that, because it makes you aware of what you have. It makes you aware of of the goodness that you receive usually and are usually blind to. So yeah, this is something we can be grateful for in difficult situations. And in this context, we also know that most of our suffering, we know from Buddhism, is created by our own mind. And you can look at this something like a perfectly flat lake, like the surface. Imagine it on a beautiful morning, no wind, it's perfectly flat. And it's a beautiful sight. And then suddenly a fish jumps up at one spot and the ripples destroy this perfect surface. And in the case of our mind, now our mind would completely be absorbed in those disturbances, in those ripples. And we would be focused completely on this. And we would ignore the perfectness that is the whole. That is our tendency. And so when something bad seemingly worse than our average happens in our life, we get completely absorbed into that, and our mind creates stories around that, get absorbed even deeper, and makes it worse than it actually is. And we forget that all the goodness, everything, the whole lake is still there. And this is something that is in our power to influence, to change over time, with something I will talk about later, which is a gratitude practice. We will be able to change our mind gradually over time to appreciate what we already have, what we are in every moment, and really so that suffering loses the grip over us. We will suffer less through a established gratitude practice. You can also think of this like a preference for harmonic sound. Our minds are somehow attuned to prefer something that sounds harmonic. That's a learned behavior. That's something we prefer, not because it's fundamentally better, but because we like it. And so suffering is like a dissonant sound, something that's not really vibrating really well with the rest of our experience. And this analogy is not really only an analogy, it's also how our brain works. We have these brain waves, and when they are in sync, when they are vibrating harmoniously, we feel good, we feel pleasure. And when they are disharmonic, we feel less pleasure. And this is something gratitude practice can improve immensely, because it's not the event itself that's really disharmonic. It's all our reactions, all our thoughts around an event that is creating these disharmonic brain waves in our brain. And so by a mindfulness and gratitude practice, we prevent the primary event from causing disharmonic ripples in our mind. So meditation, in effect, creates very harmonic brain waves. It's a very pleasurable state. And over time, really, with a meditation practice, it's like your brain becomes a more pleasurable place to inhabit. It's really, you are changing your physiology over time. And while suffering is very, very complex, and I'm reducing it here a lot to only like a certain way of looking at it and a certain interpretation, this is still a helpful lens. And it would be way too complex to go into it from many different aspects and viewpoints or interpretations. This is just something that works and has a long history in Buddhist practice. And if you follow my channel already for some time, you know the practice I recommend and I follow myself. But there I want to give you now 3 different practices, how you can increase your ability to feel gratitude. Because maybe if you have struggled in the beginning to come up with a feeling, the qualia of gratitude, it may be because you don't really have the capacity to feel it. And on a short side note here, I think this also is something we have lost in the recent years, like decades or even centuries, because of our monetary system, really. Because imagine in the time before we had money, when we were exchanging everything on a very personal basis. In the moment you received something from someone, without bartering, without giving something back immediately, it was a present, and this was common. So you received presents and gave them back at later times. But in that moment, you had to feel gratitude. So this was trained much more often. Because imagine or remember back the last time you went to a store and bought the things that you need, like food, everything. In that transaction, you immediately give back money. And this takes away, it's so impersonal, it takes away that natural response that would be there to feel gratitude. Because it's so impersonal and you feel like you're immediately paying back with the money and you don't have to feel gratitude, but that's actually not the case. And so maybe our gratitude muscles, you could say, are a little bit impoverished. So the 3 exercises to improve gratitude. First, the one I personally follow, it's very simple, it takes almost no time. It's before you go to bed every night, you remember 3 things of the day that you are grateful for, that you can feel gratitude towards. It can be very simple things, like the meals you had, like a beautiful moment, a beautiful sight, whatever. And you relive that experience once more in your inner mind, in your memory. And you infuse that experience with a feeling of gratitude. And you do that with 3 things, and then you're done. You fall asleep. It's a very simple practice. It takes no time out of your day, but it's very powerful in instilling these good memories into your mind over time, because we have a bias towards the negative stuff, as I explained earlier. The second practice you can do is write a mindfulness journal. You can once a week, 3 times a week, write down 5 to 7 things, experiences that you are grateful for. And that really is similar, but you can go into more detail. So maybe this writing out process is more for you, and you can you enjoy that more. And the third technique is to actually do a gratitude meditation, which we will also do at the end of this presentation. And this involves just being grateful for your being, for just being, without any condition. You just train your ability to feel gratitude. And the last point I want to talk about in regards to gratitude and why we feel fear of this pandemic, especially in this situation, is what is actually causing us this despair, these negative feelings around a pandemic. And that goes very deep into our mind's ability and into our mind's process. Everything that we are doing is basically predicting. Our mind is predicting every moment of experience. We are predicting whatever is coming into our senses. And whenever what is happening is matching our prediction, we are happy, we are content. We are experiencing a harmonious moment, so to speak. But in this pandemic, that really is interrupted. There seems to be so much uncertainty on the horizon. Everything that we have known somehow is changed. Like, we could get the virus every moment. We don't know. When we go out, when we meet people, we could get very sick. This is something new that is really in the forefront of our mind. And so it creates a constant underlying experience of uncertainty. Someone else we know and love could get sick and die unexpectedly. That's uncertainty, more uncertainty. We don't know what we will be able to do next week, what we are allowed, the restrictions we are all living under. And so the pandemic is characterized by a high degree of uncertainty, and that's basically why we dislike it. That's why an early death of someone we love is much more tragic than something we can anticipate. And so basically the practice we are going to do now is becoming aligned with uncertainty, with taking away the pain of uncertainty, becoming content with uncertainty. Yes, and someone already asked if I'm going to do a guided meditation today. Yeah, I am, and I'm going to start this soon. And really, what we are trying to do with a meditation practice geared towards gratitude is to improve our ability to feel this feeling. And this feeling has really been shown in many, many scientific studies that it's the best way to improve our well-being. Gratitude is so essential for our well-being that we can actually increase our happiness by developing it. And so keep that in mind when we follow this gratitude practice. Okay, let's get into the meditation and become a little bit more aware of what we have and what we can be grateful of. And if you have not already done so, get into a comfortable upright meditation posture where you are sitting completely straight without having to use any of your back muscles, and you can stay alert but don't have to tense up in order to sit straight. And to become present, we start by consciously inhaling a few times, taking deep breaths and following our breath from start to finish. You can close your eyes if you want to. You don't have to, but usually it's easier to focus on these emotional states like gratitude when your eyes are closed. And once you have settled your attention on your breath and you've arrived in this present moment, we will spend the first few minutes of this meditation in pure awareness. And the best way to do this is to imagine some point at the back of your head, to feel the back of your head. Feel that point, and once you feel the back of your head, imagine like you would look to the front from that point into the inside of your mind's eye. And you're basically looking at this point between your eyebrows, but in your mind. It's basically the space where you imagine things. And just rest your awareness on this spot, on this empty space. And whenever a thought comes up, you are going to say, I'm not going to follow this thought. I'm concentrating on awareness. you disregard every distraction that tries to keep you from focusing on this point. You might see some colors, some changing reflections, some swirling colors in your inner mind's eye, and that's perfectly fine. But don't pay much attention to them. Just look at this inner space, at this inner imaginary third eye. And it's not really important what you see. It is important that you are. Notice that you are aware, that you are conscious. Thoughts come, but you don't attach to them. They come, they take their course, and they drift away. You hold on to nothing. The only thing that you concentrate on is being aware. And now, into this feeling of being, into this pure awareness, infuse the sense of gratitude. You can do that by saying in your mind, thank you. Thank you for just being. Notice how that changes the tone of your experience. How this gratitude, how this approach of being thankful for your existence just feels so good. It is just a positive emotion. And notice how you can be grateful for that as well. Again, whenever some distractive thought arises, just notice that. Let it go and fall deeper into this presence, into being, into gratitude for your own existence. And whether you experience moments of bliss, of pure being, or your thoughts are just racing, that doesn't matter right now. You let go of any goals, of any wish to achieve a certain state. You just fall deeper and deeper into this presence, into conscious being. And now you can infuse this being, this pure awareness, again with even more gratefulness, appreciation, and gratitude for you being here, for you experiencing it. Just be this experience of gratefulness. And now open your eyes again slowly and come back to this moment and notice the after effects. Rest in this slightly different mode of being. slightly calmer, more present, and maybe even a little bit happier. Just appreciate this moment. And just be with this experience. And maybe you have experienced a little bit increased level of gratitude, and you now have a little bit of a sense for what it can do to your well-being. And I would encourage, if you have gained some insight through this meditation, that you practice it regularly. In fact, every day, if you can arrange it 2 or 3 times a day for like 10 minutes, that would be perfect, because these effects are cumulative. Really, you can gain those positive effects over time. And yeah, I recommend it highly. Keep on doing the practice. And if you have any questions, please leave me your questions in the comment section, and I will surely respond, read them. And yeah, so far, thanks everyone who has joined the live stream, and I would say thank you for being here. Hope you enjoyed the content. Leave me all of your recommendations, questions, improvements, any wishes in the comments. Yeah, Ted writes, thank you. Thank you as well. Thank you for joining, for being here, and your time. So thank you, and see you in the next live stream or in the next video. Goodbye.